Now, back to Outside the Box. All guests on Outside the Box appear courtesy of the Charter phone line, part of the Charter bundle package. Once again, here's Mitch Henck on News Talk 1310 WIBA and WIBA.com.
All right, this guy is never wrong he predicted the dot-com bubble and the housing bubble and the SNL bubble way back and all these bubbles, and now he's predicting the bailout bubble. Gerald Celente, who comes from the Bronx, he's just predicting everything right in economics and forecasting and with trendsresearch.com. Gerald, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Mitch. Thanks for having me back on.
They must see you coming when you go to these talk shows. I mean, you go to those talk shows, don't you, in the cable? I've seen you on a few.
Yeah, actually, there's a real good one on Yahoo Tech Ticker that I was just on last week.
Oh, yeah.
And that's a real good one.
Well, I think
Fox wanted me on today. I couldn't make it, unfortunately.
Boy, that won't make
and I was
happy.
on Judge Napolitano. I like him a lot. I was on him last 2 weeks. But, yeah, I'm on a lot of them. And the ones that want to hear, that have an open mind and want to hear a different perspective than the barkers on Wall Street, the shills. They ask me what I see coming.
That's right, and I would imagine that the people that have these vested interests and they're in the tank for one group or another don't know what to do with you because you're just sort of outside the box. I mean, you kind of come at it from a unique perspective. I'm going to get to the whole economic situation, though, because I think I read that you were talking about a bailout bubble. I mean, we had all these other bubbles.
Well, yeah, when it happened, we wrote about the bailout bubble. First, you have the dot-com bubble. It busts. What do? They reinflate it. The big guys on Wall Street hate to lose. They hate to lose. So they create another bubble. They created the real estate bubble and the credit crisis bubble. That blows up. What do? I got it. Let's create another bubble. We'll put more phony money in the system, and this is the bailout bubble. When this bailout bubble bursts, there's nothing else to do. They run out of their games.
Well,
we're going in. We're going in. We are forecasting the crash of 2010. We said this in 2009. The markets were going to crash. An equity crisis, whether it's financial, whether it's currency. We're going to know by the time we wake up in 2011, the game is over. Depression has set in.
That doesn't sound too exciting, Gerald. But here's my question, though. It's getting kind of late in 2010. We got the elections coming up. We did see the statistics yesterday, right? The 15-year low in the sale of existing homes. I think over a decade low in housing starts, and the orders for equipment and durable goods was at 10 times lower than was expected. And I know to a lot of people listening, that's just mumbo jumbo. But where does the rubber hit the road on this stuff?
The rubber hits the road on unemployment, and that's where we're not going to see change at all. We're looking at an effective unemployment rate when you look at people that are no longer looking for jobs, that have part-time jobs and want full-time. We're looking at about 17.5%, and it's really higher than that even because under the Clinton administration, you only could get away with this stuff in the former Soviet Union, but they get away with it now. Once you're no longer collecting benefits, you're no longer counted, you're no longer unemployed. Even though you had your number's gone. You evaporated. You don't exist anymore. Again, you could only make this stuff up with a government that's totally corrupt. It's the same thing they do, Mitch, with inflation data. To keep people from getting more money for their benefits in retirement, they've indexed the inflation rate without putting in food and fuel. And they come up, these guys, these Princeton clowns, come up with this line, well, those are too volatile, so we don't want to keep them into the index. Who are they kidding? Too volatile. They're not putting them in because then the inflation rate would be much higher than it is now.
Well, they aren't the Federal Reserve guys meeting in Jackson Hole here to talk about whether we're going to have hyperinflation?
Yeah, Jackson Hole, hole in the ground. This country's been hijacked by the bankers, and people better wake up to it. If you look at what's going on since Obama's stimulus, first it began with Bush with this talk baloney. Oh, if the big guys fail, the world will come to an end. All our lives they taught us capitalism. You rise and fall on your own merits. except when it comes to their friends. They're too big to fail. Yeah, they would have failed, and you know what would have happened, Mitch? The business would have been picked up by stronger competition. That's what capitalism is. This isn't capitalism.
Well, it's interesting that people like like Mike Pence of Indiana, and then on the left side, Bernie Sanders were against TARP. I mean, there were people other than you who thought that too, that we shouldn't do that.
Oh, absolutely. So then it goes with Obama, and he goes into the whole stimulus program. And what have they done? They've made the bigs bigger. This is a fact.
Yeah.
And you could count it, everybody on 2 hands, 10 fingers. 10 banks control 80% of the action. 3 banks control 2/3 of all the credit card business. You know, those Shylocks credit cards. You know, who could get away with charging you 30% interest? I mean, it's a criminal operation. Wow. And everything, by the way, Mitch, and this is the importance of what's going on. As trend forecasters, we make connections between different fields. Many of us are old enough to remember the days prior to factory farms. Everything has become big in this country, whether it's the funeral business, whether it's the agricultural business, whether it's the banking business, pharmaceutical business, whether it's the media business. You go down the list. It's now all controlled by a very few.
Isn't that the way it usually leads, though? I mean, the corner supermarket, the corner grocer was overtaken by the giant supermarkets. I mean, that's sort of the way it works, right? I mean,
well, that's the way it
Walmart.
works. So now we've become too big to fail. And when you look at that model, because we're only looking at the data here, when it wasn't like that, we were the most egalitarian nation on earth. And now the gap between the rich and the poor is the widest of any of the industrialized nations.
Well, let me get some answers from you then in solutions, but we'll put the number out. 321-1310 outside the Madison area, 877-235-1310. The last time you were here, we were talking about we need to buy from each other, but that sounds to me like tariffs on foreign products, which then means prices go up. So doesn't that diminish our wealth and our cash flow? If we don't have as much money to spend, our disposable income goes down, doesn't it?
Well, yes and no, because let's go back to, again, when it worked the best. It worked the best before the World Trade Organization and NAFTA. This isn't free trade. You know what they're doing? Do you realize that they're now they're bringing back some of the call centers from India to the United States, Indian companies, because the labor now is so competitive. People are making so little in this country. You can't live on $7.35 an hour.
No, but it's hard for the Democrat line seems to be okay. Let's have tariffs because we can't compete with people making $1 a day. But then the danger is if the prices of everything goes up, then we don't have as much money at the end of the day.
Well, again, when we look at it was the Democrats under Bill Clinton that put this whole NAFTA into progress. Right. Remember Al Gore?
Well, I do. Yeah. But people on the
it's not that it's both of them. They've sold the country out. Let's go back to again a current event. This company that with the eggs. Was it 500 million eggs?
A lot of eggs.
Yeah. Who could make 500 million eggs? How about calling these chicken coop concentration camps?
Ooh. Well, I'm.
And I love the names they have on the packages of they all these names, like Sunny Acres Farms, Smiling Woods Farms, How about Auschwitz eggs?
Oh, jeez.
I mean, really, this is what they're doing.
I'm all for liberating them.
These chickens can't fit on a piece of paper 8.5 by 11.
Well, so what's the answer?
The answer is they're giving the breaks to all the big guys. That's why nobody could compete. They get all the breaks. For example, they bust that little kid in Oregon selling lemonade. Remember that one?
Oh, I do remember that, yeah.
Yeah, and remember the guy, the health inspector? Well, we're doing this to protect the safety of the American people. Yeah, they don't go into this factory farm, this concentration camp for chickens in a year. They let the big guys off.
Well, how about
They're
BP?
Busting the chops of the little people. They're overtaxing the entrepreneur. They're overregulating the entrepreneur. And all of the guys that they call politicians, with these, these people. I love it. They get campaign contributions. How about bribes and payoffs? And so the whole system, Mitch, has been tilted to the bigs, and they're killing this country because they're killing the greatest thing this country has that no other country has, and that's the entrepreneurial and innovative spirit.